hospitals in general was that when we go to a hospital, we go at our most vulnerable time. And we should be able to trust that we are safe. And this video is first a public service announcement. This is for educational purposes. I don't want this video pulled down because we are talking about a very sensitive topic. And there should be laws in place to protect us, to protect our loved ones in that time of need, in time of crisis, in time of trauma. And we are at our most vulnerable, and we need to be able to trust that we are being taken care of. So that did not happen for this family.
No.
They were taken advantage of. They were stripped naked. There was a married couple, Pearlette Moore and Larry Moore. And I want you to remember their names. They were stripped naked. They were on the same floor, in the same ward, a married couple. They were not allowed to be in the same room together. Pearlette was a distinguished woman with a very good job, well respected of many years, worked for dispatch, fostered children, and they had been married many, many years. There was no reason. It is illegal to keep a married couple apart in a hospital. They weren't allowed to see each other. And Larry was tied down to his bed by his wrist and his ankles. This all happened during a time when hospitals had special rights and privileges. And I'm going to be very careful about what I say on air, because people have very different beliefs right now. And I don't want to say anything against anyone's beliefs about that time. But this is a story of what happened to many of us. It happened in my home to our great aunt. It happened to Pearlette and Larry. It happened to many, many, many people. And, I would like Alberta to speak a little bit on who her cousin was. And I'll be quiet for a little bit. I do have some questions. And okay, I would like you to go ahead.
So that was an awesome woman. When she went to UMC, she was 45. She went there on July 6, 2021. She turned 46 on July 10th. She was a great woman. She was a foster care parent to many children while she lived here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She worked for 911 for 16 years. After her husband had lost his mother and his sister, I believe it was in 2016, they decided that they were going to move to Vegas where her husband was born. So they moved there in about 2018. Pearlette found a great job where she was, I forgot what she was selling, but she was selling like I believe it was furniture and stuff like that. So she loved it because she loved the hot weather in Vegas. We originally come from Texas. Well, Pearlette was born in Houston, Texas. So in Milwaukee, it gets very cold in the wintertime, okay? So not only did he lose his mother and his sister, but also they were tired of being cold. After a while, we all get tired of being cold, okay? So they moved to Vegas. She loved it. She loved her job. They had just got a new house, a very nice house. And she was just happy. She finally got the job schedule that she wanted to be, working 4 days on, 3 days off, and she got to work from home. So she had told me that on July 2nd, she washed her hair and then she slept under the air conditioner, but that was during the time of C-19. So she had developed a bad cough. So she said, you know what, I'm going to go see if I have COVID-19. I said, well, just go to the clinic. Don't go to those hospitals. She said, okay, I'm just going to go to the clinic. So on the 6th, she called me and let me know she went to the hospital to see if she had COVID. And so I said, well, I really don't trust the hospital. She said, well, after I reported a nurse that was staring at me in an evil manner, they gave me another nurse. But I didn't like the fact she waited 20 hours to be seen. She was ever driven there by ambulance. I was sick unto death. Her husband drove her there, and he would join her the following day. So it went from her spending one night to her telling me she got a shot in her stomach to her telling me they had already given her antibiotics before even diagnosing her with anything. So after she gets this shot in her stomach and she gets this antibiotic, they tell her that she has pneumonia. Then they tell her that she has COVID-19. And then after that, she goes, I have to spend the night. I'm like, okay. So the following day, she tells me she feels better. She can now sit up, but the doctor tells her, you know what? It's taking more oxygen to keep your oxygen levels up. So you're going to don't look forward to going home for some days. I'm like, okay. So anyway, her and Larry, they have breathing treatments. And so they're in the ICU. They come out of the ICU. Everything's going fine. She's showing me she's eating bananas and she was laughing because she said, girl, why would they give me some pancakes with some grape jelly? I said, I don't know where they do that at. What about the syrup? So we were laughing about things like that. So as days went by, she tells me I believe about the 15th, she said, girl, I have to go to the ICU again. I said, why do you got to go to the ICU again? She said, I don't know. They say I have to go there. So she goes to the ICU. On the 18th, she tells me she's on a diabetic diet. She also told me that she was given insulin. And I said, why are you giving insulin when you're not diabetic? She said, that's how they say they're treating the COVID. So anyway, she had the breathing treatment. She goes to the ICU. She lets me know that on the 19th, she comes out of the ICU. And then on the 20th, she lets me know that she's been placed in a very hot room, so hot that she's trying to keep her sanity. So she orders a fan from Walmart.com, a black Blasco fan that has never been seen again in life. The nurse comes and takes the fan and says, you're going to blowing COVID germs everywhere. And then I start thinking, how is she doing that? Nobody's in the room with her. So anyway, she tells me that her doctor tells her that her numbers are going up. The only reason that you put somebody on a ventilator is if they have RS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. And I find this out after the fact, of course. Then she goes onto the ventilator one day after coming out of the ICU. Then on July 21st, this particular doctor puts her in a paralytic coma. And I know for sure, as I looked at up, paralytic comas for somebody with a stroke or brain trauma. My cousin had neither. Her daughter, Larisha, did not agree with this method and said, you know what, I want to make medical decisions for my own mother. They said, no, she has no power of attorney. But I want to tell you, Pearlette told me that she filled out a power of attorney. She also did a Facebook messenger and said, y'all, just in case something happens, I filled out a do resuscitate form. So anyway, Larisha tells me, bro, they're not letting me switch my mother to another hospital. So I keep looking. I find a hospital named Summerlin Hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada. And a lady named Joanne Bates accepts Pearlette and her husband. Her husband, when he comes out of this, lets us know that he was forced into intubation. He has a video like that, but I have to find it and it needs sound in it. So anyway, after we find another hospital, they would not let Larisha let her mother go to another hospital. They would not let Larisha make medical decisions for her own mother. They let her know her mother's not doing good, that her blood pressure goes to 55/34. They tell Larisha your mother's dying because she cannot urinate and her blood pressure is that low. They do have catheters. They have medication to make the blood pressure go up. Anyway, they put a do not resuscitate on my cousin from a doctor who's affiliated with UMC. He works for a whole nother hospital. Next thing I know, I hear nurses screaming, unplug her, you're making her suffer, she's dying anyway. So after my cousin's life is taken, then they ship her to Davis Funeral Home, whom they're contracted with, without Larisha's permission. And we were never able to identify Pearlette. We were never able to get an autopsy from her or anything.
How did when you went to the funeral home, how did your cousin look in the funeral home?
Well, first she was at Davis Funeral Home, whom UMC Hospital is contracted with, right? Because when Larisha was at the hospital, the sheriff made her think she had to get rid of her mother. She had to take her mother to a funeral home ASAP. In the state of Nevada and all states across the United States, if your loved one dies in a hospital, you have the right to bring their body home. Anyway, they put that to Davis Funeral Home without Larisha's permission, and we were never able to identify her at all. I went to Davis Funeral Home maybe 2 months after Pearlette had passed away. Like, you still haven't seen your mother? So I speak to a man there, I'm not gonna say his name right now. And I said, I just want to pray for my cousin. She died around lunatics. He said, did you say pray? You better go in the parking lot and pray. You better not pray here. So then her husband interjected and said, I don't like the way you're talking to my cousin. I'm going to have her shipped to another funeral home, which was Heritage Funeral Home. So we're finally able to go to Heritage Funeral Home and see Pearlette. When me and Larisha, my oldest daughter, go into the room, it's a body there with a bunch of plastic on it, with a whole bunch of covers on it. When I feel at the top of the head, I feel no dreadlocks. Pearlette had dreadlocks. When I feel the legs, I feel something feels like some steel. I don't know who this person was that I was hugging, who this person was that I was praying over, but I don't think that it was my cousin. Larisha and her dad were never allowed, along with myself, we were never allowed to identify Pearlette, never allowed to have a funeral. After Pearl's body has been there for a whole like 6, 7 months, because we were trying to raise money up for our own autopsy. The funeral home told the husband that he better hurry up and burn her up or they were going to do so. So the husband had her cremated, something we don't believe in as a family. So that's what happened to my family. We never had closure. I know that my cousin had moderate COVID. She was even getting heparin every day. She was getting a medicine called Denastron every day also, which stops COVID mortality. Heparin, if you give that to somebody, that stops the need for ventilation. So my question is, why was my cousin ever placed on a ventilator once she came out of the ICU? Why was her daughter not able to make medical decisions for her own mother? Why was she not able to transfer her mother to another hospital? Why were we not? Why was she able? Wasn't she able to pick her own funeral home for her mother? So I'm not understanding that. So after Pearlette was, I say after she died in the hospital, this hospital kept Larry Moore an additional 2.5 months. Through text, I can show you that he woke up from the ventilator on July 17th. Why was he still in this hospital in mid-September? So Larisha, I said, you need to start taking video or something because you don't want to lose your daddy also. That's why I have video of him being tied to the bed by his hands and his wrists and him telling his daughter he needs help to get out of there. So that's what happened to my family. And I just want justice. I want justice like anybody else would because we're missing a mama, a grandmother, a wife, my cousin and sister and friend. And for what? What was she taken away for? What, why they acted like a bunch of wild wolves trying to get a pack of meat. But my cousin was a whole human being. I've never in my life seen doctors act like that. Myself, I am a cancer survivor. And when I had my doctors, they were awesome to me. The first one wasn't that great, but the second one was awesome. So I never seen doctors and nurses act like this. I never did. And I also want to interject and say on July 21st, 2021 at 10:01 a.m., I called a risk manager named Shonda Phillips. And I said, why are you all doing this to my cousin when her daughter's her power of attorney? And she tells me, Pearlette had no power of attorney. I said, yes, she did. She told me that on the 19th, she filled out the paper. She said, oh, yeah, she did have a power of attorney, but it didn't count due to the fact that we weren't let witnesses in due to COVID. And my question is this, why they didn't ask Pearlette that?
People are commenting right now, and I just wanted to comment back. No, it does not make sense. It is, the hospitals had special rights during COVID. So we are talking about things that happened during COVID, and this is not being talked about. So this is a very sensitive topic. It is things that normally would be against the law. Normally you could get an attorney, you could fight this, but this can't be done right now. That's why we are bringing it up today. And no, it doesn't make sense. You should be able to identify a body. Larisha Moore had power of attorney for her mother. There is no reason why they could not have taken her out of the hospital. She was also, the daughter, Larisha Moore, was also attacked being pregnant by the security guards there. There are many aspects to this true crime that have been swept under the rug. They can't get a lawyer. They can't get anybody to listen to them. And many of their videos have been pulled down off of TikTok. So that's why I am bringing this today, because they've got to be heard. They need somebody to help them. And we are hoping somebody here can. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. Anyone, please help. Everything that, she is saying, we have investigated. A child should be able to identify, you should be able to identify your past loved ones at a funeral home. I mean, that's against the law. It is absurd. I've never heard of such a thing.
Me either.
You should be able to pray for them, give them a kiss, see them. Why was she wrapped in plastic and a blanket over her? My God, that is devastating. It is disgusting, despicable. I don't understand what is going on with this place. Why did UMC have so much power? And the funeral home even said that you can't fight UMC. And so far, she has not been able to.
Nope.
Alberta has tried, Larisha has tried, Larry has tried. And we are going to have a part 2 over this because right now we are only going over Pearlette's story. We aren't going to have time on here to even go into the horror that happened to poor Larry Moore. So that will come up next. Please listen and talk to others because this is only the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea how many people this has happened to all over the country. I'm sorry for interrupting, but a lot of people were commenting on here, and I wanted to say something to the people that are watching and taking time out to listen.
I thank you all. I thank all of them.
And commenting, and yes, it is horrific. There is no shred of human decency in what happened to Pearlette or Larry Moore. There's none.
And I also want to say one more thing. We had a lawyer, but UMC Hospital refused to this day to give Larry Moore him or Pearlette's medical records. They told him if he wants hers, he needs to get a what is that? I forgot what it's called, but he needs to go to court to have them so that he can get her medical records, and that his are too long. To this day, he still does not have Pearlette's in his medical records. And when we did have a lawyer, being that UMC would not release her medical records, we lost that one particular. It was two particular lawyers that were willing to help us, but they said in Vegas you only have 1 year to do something when it's involving COVID. And I'm like, COVID is no excuse to mistreat people or take people's lives or not allow you to see your relatives. So like I said, I've never seen anything like this happen to anyone. Like I said, we never had closure, because how can you have closure if you never get to see the body or you never get to have the funeral, tell that person you love them, pray for that person, and be able to say goodbye? We never had that opportunity.
He's asking about the FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act. They've been trying to get attorneys, been trying the FOIA request. They know that they need the security cameras from the hospital. They cannot get UMC to contact them at all. We are hoping that we can get with Alberta is hoping that with some more, coverage, that someone will reach out and we can get some letters written to UMC. Maybe an attorney will see this because none of the attorneys in Las Vegas will pick this up. So please,
No, they won't.
if you know of anyone, please send this video. Please help, because the things that have you're only hearing a very little bit. There's so much more to this story.
And I also want to say something. Pearlette had a big hole in her lip, and the nurse said that was due to her being prone. It was a big, massive hole, and we're not understanding how that happened. Also, I've been lied to by Vegas homicide. I was told that a Lieutenant Jason Johansson investigated UMC Hospital twice. I recently found out about 2 months ago that had not been true. I have been told a lie for an entire year and a half. Also, the medical examiner, Ernesto Diaz, who was very rude to me and condescending. When I first saw him, maybe a month after Pearlette died, I asked him about this particular doctor. He said she's not on his list or his alternative list. I was praying to the Lord about it, because the lady at the funeral home is the one who snuck and told me the doctor's name after I started crying to her. And I called back, and his receptionist, her name is Norma. She said, why would he tell you that when she's at the top of the list? Then he hops on the phone. He said, this other doctor participated in it too. Anyway, he told me it's going to take a year to two for him to come up with some findings. I recently found out maybe 2 months ago when I called Special Investigations in Las Vegas that he dropped the case, but he hasn't told me anything. So we've been, I've tried everybody, the governors, the attorney general, the DOJ. Thank God I just found my number with them, because they act like I did not exist. But I thank God I take pictures of everything, and I found that number, so I'm going to be calling them back. But what I'm upset about also is that the Vegas homicide told me that a Lieutenant Jason Johansson, like I said, did an investigation. Why not tell me the truth? And also an officer named Lisa Kennedy told me, Alberta, if you can find anybody in the state that asks me to get UMC's security and surveillance camera footage and Pearlette's Facebook account, she says she filled out a new resuscitator. You get somebody from the state to ask me to do that, then I can do it. My God, it took me like a year to find somebody. I finally found somebody at the governor's office. Her name is Sonia, very sweet lady. And she said, Alberta, I spoke to Lisa Kennedy. She's ready for you to talk to her. So I called Lisa Kennedy and I said, okay, I have somebody from the state like you told me that I needed to do. Now I need you to get those surveillance and security camera footage of what happened to my cousins and also Pearlette's Facebook account. She said, well, Alberta, I can't do that. I'm really just over a substation. I said, why didn't you tell me this from the first place? You had me looking all around all this year trying to get justice for my cousin, and you never even stuck to your word. So it's like you can't believe anybody because everybody you go to, they have an excuse. They'll pretend to help you for so long. Even the Nevada legislatures and the one legislature, I think his name is Craig, he said, just come to that meeting. They meet every second Thursday of the month and just jump in front of the cameras. And I say, Craig, you know they're not going to show that on TV if I was to do that. So no. So I'm just trying to get justice for my cousin because I believe that in the United States, the land of the free, that you can go in a hospital where you trust somebody and your life can be taken and they act like nothing ever happened. Something happened. My cousin's life was taken. Our lives have never been the same. We don't have closure. We need help because we lost a 46-year-old awesome woman for no reason. She didn't have COVID like that. She had a bad cough and Larry had mild COVID. So why did it have to go this far?
You know, this is a wrongful death case, is what this is. And there shouldn't be so much red tape in an attorney taking this case. I don't understand it. I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand why no one will help you. I don't understand why you can't